Not sure if Alan got a chance to get right around the whole group. I've introduced and formally received as a deputation to our general meeting, Alan Smith. Alan, welcome. He wants me to give a presentation on an adventure, an initiative that this team are developing and working on. So I'm not the best person to give the introduction. I think Alan's the best place to introduce himself to us. So please, Alan, take the floor.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for the great opportunity for allowing me to come today for a presentation. It's just good to update on a project that has it's been chipping away for a little while. We've had a few wins, and of course we've had a little bit of a break on it with COVID, but it hasn't stopped the project as such. It's just slowed down. So Outback Aussie Tours, of course, most of you might have heard about it. It's been around for 32 years around Longreach. I'm a Blackwell boy, but my wife said Blackwell born, Blackwell had long legs and short hair when she first met me, so that sort of explained everything. But basically, I love it out west because I love it out west. It's that simple, and we're very passionate about our region, and the people in our region is what makes the difference. And it's the things that have happened from geological time forward that really make the points of interest and create the story that underpin the real tourism experience in Western Queensland, in my opinion. So I'd just like to say that the secret to our success of growing a business in very remote tourism world of outback tourism and very seasonal operation of business has been packaging. So the packaging of the Hall of Fame at Qantas Museum is where it probably all started, and Winton, and we've been packaging Clark in Tambo and Blackwell and right out to Boulia and then down around the corner in the Gulf and the Cape, and we're just slowly growing that product now. And so we have a brochure. I'm sorry, I'm actually waiting for more to come from Brisbane, but this is our current brochure, which has all those packaging. So I can just pass them around. You can have a quick flip while we're talking and just get an idea of what the packaging is all about, because it's really quite a foreign thing to people that might not be in first-hand tourism realise how critical this is to business. Because if we don't package it, we can't sell it, we can't profile it, we can't market it, and it makes it too hard for people to actually be on those buses without it. So why is that so important? Because we've got a project here called Outback Rail Adventure, which is really another layer or level or elevation of getting more people into our region. It's 104 seats on this train. That's 104 in and 104 out. So it's 200 people a week. It significantly changes tourism from our business perspective, and certainly for our part of the region being the Central West, and now with the train the Central Highlands as well. I've just recently done a presentation similar to this at Central Highlands Council. We've got one in Winton, I think, next month, and also we've had a lot of delegations with a lot of different groups. But I just thought it'd be really important, and in talking to Steve, it was a really good opportunity to come over here and update you guys, because it's pivotal. You know, you fellas join effectively the Central Highlands with the Central West, which is where this project is. And the idea of a train, a rail motor coming out from out to Longreach and running trips out, say, to Dar River or to Ilfracombe, the business isn't there for that. We're not interested in that. We're interested in running from Emerald to Winton and packaging it up, because it won't stand on its two legs, it won't pay, and we can't get enough packages, enough people in beds and in attractions without doing a sizable chunk. The real reason for doing Emerald, apart from the beautiful scenery over the Drummond Range and the country and the stories in between, is there's 6 to 7 flights pre-COVID coming in and out of that airport. There's accommodation with those airport arrivals and departures that actually don't have they're not used to peak capacity over weekends, because a lot of contractors like to go home. So in a mining area, getting accommodation as a tour operator is something you just avoid. But if we can actually put a train in there that only uses the weekend when the accommodation and the flights are available, it just makes a lot of sense. So that's the idea is to use those flights to get them into our region and use that accommodation, obviously, which we need to package that in. Also, you put that together at Rockhampton, the tilt train going up every day to Rockhampton with flights going down to Rockhampton. It's only 3 hours away from Emerald. So it makes it a really good way of trying to feed more people into our region. We've actually reached Pussy's Bow as far as Outback Aussie Tours developing packages. We can't get any more people on the train. Right, the spirit of the Outback is chock-a-block. They have reduced the consist over the years. They've ripped out, some of you might be aware, they've ripped out all the old sleepers and they've put in the new roomette type ones where they've pulled the wall down and pulled them twin. They've gone from something like 60 odd sleepers down to about 48, and that's when they're all on. And then with COVID at the moment, it's 20. Try and run a tour of 30 for that one and share it with everyone else that's got a booking as well. So it's interesting times, but the thing is we need more capacity. And we worked with Queensland Rail for the last 5 years on could we refurbish some old cars and could we do something with the existing spirit of the Outback to get more people even from the Emerald section to here. But the investment it needed to bring that train up to speed for a good tourism experience, as far as interpretive tourism goes, was really probably a couple of $1 million exercise. And to do that, it's got about a 5 to 6 year life left of the spirit of the Outback. A lot of people don't know, but it's true. So we need to do something to be in charge of this rail market that comes out. Why is the rail so important? The rail is really important because the people who come on a train, they need accommodation, they need food, they don't bring it with them, they don't cook it in their van. Nothing against the drive market, it's very important. We couldn't operate our business without them, but a very important string to our bow is this rail market that comes in because it's high yield, we get a lot more money per person, so we can actually employ more people for the amount of time they're in the region. We can get up to $500 a day from someone who's on a train, which is a very high yield per person, which is makes a big difference to how much then it costs to market to get that person on board, to how much it costs to deliver at the other end. And the real thing is if we can actually get the packaging that's been going on in Longreach for really 30 years of our business, if we can now share that with the rest of the region, get this market to stay in Emerald for the night and Barkey for the night and Winton for the night, all of a sudden we've actually got a lot higher spend that maybe you guys and your communities can actually get out of this. And what we'd like to do is bring Train Day to all your communities, to all the communities in Western Queensland and out there. So if there's a business that wants to put a street stall up there or a community organisation like an Anglican Church Guild or a PNC wants to run something on Train Day, they can. So trying to even take part of maybe that livability piece where it's just something that happens in Barkey once or twice a week. So that just gives you an idea that we package. The experience of the train is really important. The experience is not just about driving through the countryside on a train. It's about the stories that go with it. It's about meeting people in those towns. If we don't engage this project into those communities, then we've got nothing. So let's just have a little look. This is the train itself. We've actually done a lot of work in securing access to rolling stock, access to the actual line, and then there's all sorts of challenges in that journey. But that's taken, say, 2 months to negotiate all that, but it's fine. This is bridging the era of the steam with the era of the air-conditioned closed window train. So the rail motor, you can open the windows, you can smell the gum leaves, you can actually feel the breeze. So this is those seats there. This is a Caterpillar. So it's 2 carriages. They've both got a motor in each. And all you do is it comes in the station there, and then you start her up and you go in the opposite direction. You don't have to turn it round. It's very user-friendly when it comes to moving on rail tracks. Okay, but with those seats, you just grab the seat, you just move it from one side to the other, and all of a sudden you're facing the opposite direction. It's very, very user-friendly, but it's been fully refurbished about 6 years ago, this unit. And it's got a dunny in each one. It's pretty flash, and people can actually feel engaged with the environment, the towns, and being on trains. So we're bringing that romance of rail back into Western Queensland more than just the spirit of the Outback, and the idea is to try and see if we can do that. What's the route? Well, the map up there is pretty self-explanatory in the fact that we know where Emerald is, and Steve Barkey's definitely on the map, so that's good. And so is even This one here, we got told by Emerald on the last thing, hey, where's the gem fields? So we've got the gem fields on the next map. But we're getting there, you know, because at the end of the day, it is about those communities. So this timetable, the rough timetable that we've worked on to work in with the slots of existing trains that have been in those slots for a long time, it's a lot to try and get your head around. But at the end of the day, the proposal is that the train will be based in Longreach. It will actually leave Longreach on a Friday, go through to Barkey, 2-hour run, go through to Jericho and Alpha, lunch. We'd like to do a lunch and engage the community and businesses over there as much as possible over there to get that engagement again. It's not just about food, it's about engagement. And then, of course, 2 hours across to Boguntunga and 2 hours from there to Emerald. So that then gives you a full day to get to Emerald. That locates the train to Emerald. We'll sell that packages. That's a day after the Spirit of the Outback Fund, so people who can't get on the Spirit on our normal packages can actually go the next day with an hour accommodation. So it fits really well with our existing packages. Just need to tell you that we're not doing this to get people just on our tours, because that won't pay for this operation. We need to do this for the visiting coaches like the Front Over 50s and the other tour groups that come through to actually use sections of the train. If you've heard of the Savannah Lander up in the north, up in the Gulf country, or the Gulf Lander, a lot of coach companies come in there for the peak of the winter and they use a section of the train. This is really exciting because it's not only 100 and something people can come into town on. If you're getting people on and off at different sections, you're actually getting the multiplier of numbers up there. So you might turn that into 300 or 400 people using that train a week. So it gets really interesting on numbers. So the route there, Longreach to Emerald, then Emerald the next day would go through. The plan is to come through to Barkey and just take a little bit more time. And we won't be servicing every single stop in one direction, but in both directions we will, just because of timetable restraints. But everyone will get a crack at this every week, which is the main deal. Getting people on and off the train with buses and stuff, I reckon we could organise that for a tour operator to understand how it all works. And packaging that up and making it easy for people to go on, whether they're a grey nomad on the road or whether there's someone flying in on a package doing a trip to the Gulf Savannah and coming into Longreach to do that. The other thing we'd like to do is, if you have a look at the map there, you can see where it says Emerald down to Springsure, Ralston and Carnarvon, and back through Tambo, Blackwell, Isisford, Yarraka and Windora, and back up through Dundas, Stonehenge to Winton. We'd like to run 2 trips. So we'd like to run a trip out to Carnarvon and do off the beaten track and then with the train. So Emerald back to Emerald or Longreach back to Longreach. And then the other one that we're working on now that there's a bit more activity up around the Aramac area is actually to package Winton through to Muttaburra and Muttaburra through to probably Aramac and Jericho and the back blocks of Alpha if we can. So that's all just preliminary stuff, but the first thing we need to do is we need to secure the project. We've got the rolling stock, we've got the access agreement, we've got $1 million worth of funding from the state outback tourism infrastructure, but we've got to put 250,000 into that, and we were on track to do that until a little thing called COVID came down the line. And so that's wiped out our capacity to borrow money. And so we're now looking for your support and everyone else's support to lobby the state and federal government. We're not after another grant, just after a deferred loan that we can actually get the project going so construction can start next year. So this can be on track for Mother's Day launch 2022. That's the timeline that we're working on. We feel we can achieve that. If we don't get the deferred loan, this project will still go ahead. We've got 6 years with our development approval that's been approved with the Longreach State, Longreach Council for our depot. The depot is pivotal. This is where the investment has been, because if we can't look after this train, we can't get the train. So it's all very, very useful. But if you have a look at the map, you get an idea. We're going to spread people off rail packaging into beyond just Longreach. It's going to go to, we didn't get a crack at the packaging with us with the way that it's worked, but I believe now we've got a reason to give people to come through these areas by train, and then with them another reason where we package it by coach and the train to get them to stay here. Where we need your help is we need to join forces where possible, where practical, where we can get on one page. If it becomes a problem, we don't want to do it. It's fine. We've got plenty of work. We're busy enough. But where we need to get on a page is we need to work on the profile together. The customers, when we put it, we've done many times over the last 32 years, we've actually put a package together, a Central West tour, a National Parks tour, and we put it in the motoring organisations for sale. We haven't been able to sell it. The reason why we haven't been able to sell it is not enough profile in the market to actually get the conversion in that market. So where we need a hand is to say, hey, Barkey region and Emerald and Barcoo and Tambo, Blackwell and Winton and Booyah, can we actually work together on the media, like the bloggers, getting the journalists out here, and get a media plan where we can actually host these people, and we'll do our bit for training the buses and boat cruises and whatever we have to do it. But let's share the love by getting the profile where they're writing the stories about, you know, that character they met in downtown Barcaldine, or the new project that's going on out here, or the new project that's going on there. So that's one area where we're looking for help. It's just to join forces on building the profile. And the other thing is then when we go to market, like if there's marketing dollars that you're already spending, is there any way that we can just realign ourselves with some of that so we can give you more leverage? So by joining forces with us, helping you with that, we can actually get some conversion, get people staying overnight in town and getting some of that $500 a day person in town, and package it up. But it's not just about those package people, it's about slowing down your grey nomads. If we make train day here in Barcaldine twice a week, once on the way that way, once on the way that way, we can actually, that's another couple of hours or half a day or full day that we can slow them down in your town, or not just Barkey of course, but in all the regions, towns of Barkey Shire. So that's just a bit of an idea of the plan. I like maps, they're easy to read, they're that big anyway. So it's not about the train ride, it's about the story, it's about the food, it's about the people, it's about the natural and cultural landscapes. But it's all about that complete guest experience, and that's what we do with our packaging. We ensure that people get these experiences consistently, and we actually, by doing that, we make it easy, not just in price, but in experience for a travel agent to go, yeah, geez, we're going to book that. And do you think it's a good climate now to get into the travel agents with COVID on? No one can travel overseas. This is the time to start profiling the stuff and really take a lead on the stuff. And we have never seen so many inquiries from travel agents in all our 32 years of life, because they can't sell internationally. They're starving for inventory product seats that they can put people on. People have got credits on aeroplanes they can't use. That's helping out. So to secure this project, we really need to support the funding applications and community engagement. So part of the things that's really important with this is once we secure the loan that is required, we're actually just between these walls, we're looking for $500,000 from the state or federal government. We've just started to lobby that with the Premier's visit a couple of weeks ago in Longreach, and we're hoping to catch up the Key Pit on the Northern Australia Fund as well. So if we can secure that, the first thing we need to do is then do a product audit of all the things that you guys know and your businesses and your community people know about that are interested in tourism, and do an assets assessment of what's actually here. Have an open mind of what we can create. Then how do we match that up with the market of what we think we can sell? And then let's get out there and actually create some product together and package it together and go out there and sell it. So if I'm moving too fast, just hit me on the head. It's just, it's been a few years in the making. Packaging these assets for Central Islands and Central West is critical. This train will not make a buck off selling a rail ticket. We'll only make a buck if we package it. That's the bottom line. The active cooperative content, the media plan, and building a profile market is the critical stuff. If we can't do that here, it will limit the business we can do here. This is the plan for the actual material change of use and development approval that was went through the May meeting in Longreach. And this is actually the stage 2 of the building. Stage 1 is about a half of that main shed area. If we can't shed this rolling stock, we can't put it over a pit, we can't service it, we can't do a bogie change, we can't have it. So the big investment for us has been to create a depot for it. And that's what's really taken a lot of time, apart from securing the access to the line, the rolling stock and the money. But if we have a look there, you can see, I don't know if you can see where it says administration building in the middle of that one. That is critical really for our stage 2 and as we develop packaging, because we'll literally as a business will need more space if we're going to get more people packaging and selling this thing and more reservation staff. We're currently, just for those that don't know, we're currently based at the Longreach Railway Station. We've got a long-term lease at the Longreach Railway Station. Our intention for that is to stay forever if it's possible for our retail street address. But this becomes our corporate address, if you like, and our depot. So the train line you can sort of see through here, and that's the main line. Those who, like the railway station's here, that's where our current office is, around there. There's the big roundabout, Main Street's here. There's Our Lady's Catholic School here, and there's this big empty block that hasn't had much activity. I think they had a wool loading ramp taken in the 80s, and there's a steam engine area that used to do stuff in the 1960s. So a lot of this hasn't seen a lot of activity. It's been a vacant block for a long time. So we've secured that with Transport and Main Roads. It's been under lease with Queensland Rail, been released back to us as a free sale. So that's all in order. It's all in contract. So it's moved along a lot. The product development. So this is in phases. So the first phase for our product development really is really to test the train and its facilities and its processes. The National Rail Accreditation, ONSA, is like the National Department of Transport, if you like, for trains, and it's very strict, and we need to comply with that. So part of our compliance on that is to run for probably a few weeks or a month or maybe 2 months on running just short haul, getting all those processes in place to make sure we've got our reporting in place and all that sort of stuff. So our intention is earlier, probably March, April, early May of 2022 is to do that. And we can't afford to just do that 1 year and do that forever, because it will make $108,000 loss a year because of the on costs of insurance and stuff that go with just having the train. We need, as soon as possible, to run Emerald to winter. And so the intention is to have the launch for Mother's Day 2022 from here to Emerald and back to from Emerald through, and get that packaging in place in the meantime. So we haven't got a lot of time when it comes to building a profile. We need to secure the money is our next step. The next step after that is to start doing the asset assessment of what's in all the different region shires and things, and see what the product's going to look like. And we need to start getting those stories in the market no later than early next year. And then the following year we need to be in market with the product. So phase one is that. Phase two is really the overnight stays with Emerald Barcall and bringing on the full gig, and that's from about May. And then we actually need to bring all those things together, the four drive touring packages and glues it all. We see the buses as a natural fit to glue the train together with the packaging. We see the train as a natural fit to our operation because it's transport and it's core. It's just taking our core business to another level. And there's our map again of our operational area. There's been some estimates done here. The figures of $10 million for direct injection packages into the Central West and Central Highlands is very real. We're on track to do $7 million just with our normal packaging of what we do with Outback Aussie Tours this year. So $10 million to do that train. And when you look at all the things that are available around the Emerald area, around the Barkey area, and around the Whitney area that aren't already packaged, let alone once you bring in Tambo, Blackall and Windora, it doesn't take much to put it up. One tour could be worth $270,000 or $177,000 one, just dropping that in the community. So it's really big dollars when you start packaging. The full-time employees, the overnight expenditure will go through the roof in some of these places, because what we're hoping to do is we'll extend the season a bit more. And what our plan is over the summer months and the shoulder months, when we don't expect to do too much on a scheduled service, is to attack the corporates and the events and that sort of market, so we can actually get that high yield again for that high spend for accommodation, meals, all that sort of stuff, and get that spend done. Other than that, I think that's just to give you a bit of an idea of our project. There's a lot more to it. I guess the main thing takeaway from this is any assistance as a council and as communities and as businesses for your area that you can see that we can not only help with, but you can help me with that engagement. With the politicians to secure not funding. Probably an unsecured loan is probably what the feds are talking about in the last few days, which is interesting. There might be some lobbying that we need to help get that. But the most important thing for us, apart from the money will come. It'll either come from the state or the Fed, or it'll come from Outback Aussie Tours in another couple. We're not after a hand out, we're after a hand up. that's what we're after, a deferred loan for from the government. So we get the project rolling because COVID's kicked the hell out of us, and but we're still operating. On a COVID note, we started doing boat cruises on the 1st of July, and we thought, oh, well, it'll be pretty quiet. We'll do three cruises a week. We'll do maybe 20. We're doing 5 and 6 a week. We've got 40 on each cruise. It's gone ballistic, as you've seen the thing. So there's people out there that are doing. Everyone's watching Victoria and New South Wales, and at the end of the day, we're going to be wary. We're going to be safe. We'll do all that we can, but we're not going to get hung up on what could happen. We're going to work with what we do have, not with what we don't have. And the cruises are working really well. We hope to bring on our tours as of the 12th of August, where our Golf and Cape and Corner and our Launch and Winter packages will actually come online then. So we're hoping to do a good couple of months of those longer tours this year to help us have enough money to get over the summer. We've been very thankful for the Q Rider money. We've got about 250 out of that to help us get through and keep people employed, plus the 13 people and job people. So that's just an open, transparent say, hey, that's how we've got through COVID. We're trading, we're doing all we can. We've worked with the government to get that under 50 people protocol out there, which allows us to not social distance if we have these other things in place to allow us to trade sustainably. That's been very successful. So we're going well. The train is our biggest hold up at the moment. They're trying to apply the new protocol on the train to try and get more sleepers with 20 people maximum on the train. When you take the existing bookings up there, lots of different tour operations, we need a minimum of 20 to run one of those bus tours. And so if we actually end up with 5 or 10 or 6, which is what we've been doing on those days, it's not worth turning the key. But we're not letting us stop that. We're bringing on to all our people holding credits. We've got 500 or 600 people holding credits on long tours. That's a lot of money tied up. We've had things we've given up to $250,000 back on events and stuff that we have taken money for. There's been a real washout called COVID, but thank God we've got some good processes in place and we've been able to handle it. So I don't want to let us stop it. Winston Churchill once said, don't waste a good crisis. So we've just talked in and talked to the governments about what's happening with this Outback Rail. It's been received very, very well. And I just thank you for the opportunity, Steve and Sean and councillors, for allowing me to come this morning. I'm happy to do any Q&A and question and answers you might have.
Thanks, Alan. You're right about current occupancy. Just last night here, having a look around the van place just in Darkpool, looked like there was 1 or 2 spots free at one park and the other 2 no chance. It's terrific. There was 25 parked at the Weir. So, just the numbers in and around our communities, especially here in Buckpool anyway, but the outlying communities were in Aramac and Muttaburra last week, and there was good numbers, certainly not great, but good numbers, and Alpha and Jericho. One thing I'd just make an observation, I think it's great. I love the concept of, I appreciate the inclusion of some of our towns in it. I'd really like to do a little bit of a plug for the concept that you said is a bit futuristic from Winton across to Jericho. Those 2 northern towns of ours get missed a bit.
Yeah.
Muttaburra and Aramac have got some terrific small product. Some of it's extremely large and some of it's extremely expensive to build. But it's fantastic stuff, like the Muttaburrasaurus Interpretation Centre, then you've got the Harry Redford type experience and the museums in both Muttaburra and Aramac. And then just to add on to the back end of that, then a feed, you don't even need to come into Barcaldine, and you can go through the most beautiful, it's not cattle country, but it's terribly good tourist country from Aramac to Jericho. It's that sculpture trail element added to it. It's a bit of a hidden gem, and I guess I'm not a tourist. I fly from place to place as quick as I can and get out of there and get home. But the numbers of people that repeat destinate every year to Muttaburra and to Aramac shows that what they've got's good and they enjoy the experience. And it's a bit about helping someone develop that package. And we here at Barcaldine will be very keen. We've had some industry contacts who've let us down, industry representative contacts who've let us down over the last few years with product development around drive tours and experience. So if there was a possibility for our tourism officers and executives to work with you to further look at that over the next, I appreciate not the next few months, but over the next few years. That's a really exciting opportunity from Whitten around to Jericho, whether it ties in with the rail or it's just its own little 2 or 3 day experience. There's a bunch of stuff there that privately has been developed, councils help develop, community groups have developed. It'll be so exciting to see that shared.
All of the above is possible. It just needs profile. I can't emphasise how big a problem we have in people knowing about this stuff before they travel. So when they get on the road, they can change their mind.
Yeah.
When they leave home and they book a package, their mind's made up. You got to get into that head before they make their mind up. And I reckon we can do all of that. I really do.
Well, we've got a report here in this meeting actually about that exact thing, that there was a sense of frustration being experienced by some visitors to our information centres for people who hadn't pre-booked, and places like the Stockman's Hall of Fame have limited on the numbers, so that the younger families who aren't as nervous about online, they're booked, they're in, but the more traditional grey nomad traveller who just relaxingly enjoys their experience have struggled a bit with that. So that's a frustration that's been felt. Our staff have reported that back to us.
Yeah.
But look, didn't mean to take away from this by talking about the future. This is real and will benefit a number of communities, but it'd be really exciting if we could help. And if it's profile building, we've got to do that. Sculpture Trail's building a profile all of its own now.
Yeah.
But the other stuff and finishing them off, we realise that Muttaburrasaurus is not finished yet, but it will be by Christmas.
Yeah.
So if we can, we've got some talented people in our communities, if we can help build a profile and work with you to do that, it'll be fantastic.
Well,
But this is the one that's current.
this is not going to work unless we help you do that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to need that content and the profile from that to make this work. Otherwise, it's just going to be a transport from Emerald to Longreach. And I don't think I'm going to make enough money to keep it on the tracks. We don't help you do what you need to do because we need that content. At the end of the day, with tourism, it's all about content, but it's how we profile that content.
The other observation, just on contacts, do you know former McKinlay Mayor Belinda Murphy?
Yeah.
So she's a board member now with the NAIF.
Oh, is she?
So Keith Pitt would be a wonderful contact, but she'd be a better one.
Yeah.
Just on NAIF stuff. And I'm actually going to be talking to Keith later today, so
Excellent.
I'll name drop that he needs to talk to you.
Well, Lachlan Miller's trying to talk to him as well, so that'd be awesome.
Yeah, he's really good in that role. Councillor Peoples, you have a comment?
Yeah, Alan, just your red line went from Whitten down to St Anne's Jungle, Windora, back across to Emerald. Is that a coach, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a coach tour that you hope to establish?
Yeah, and that map was done last year as part of our submissions for other things, so this other tour, I don't want to go ahead without doing the things through Muttaburra and stuff. So I
Well,
see that.
I was just going to make that point about, if that's sort of a tour, we can do the same sort of thing through Aramac and Muttaburra. But the other thing that we probably didn't mention just then was the story about Aunt Emma and the old rail line that went from here to Aramac.
Yeah.
There's a story about rail there in itself.
My word.
And, we've had a bit of discussion. We haven't sort of moved anywhere on it yet, of maybe putting Aunt Emma on rubber tyres and
Right.
having some sort of tour around the town. We've still got a long way to go, but we've talked about it. So there's other things like that we could, add to this.
Yeah. I do like rail, and I really like the look of Aunt Emma. So if we can do anything to help Aunt Emma, that'd be awesome, because to me that fits the story and it fits the people who are coming on the train.
Yeah.
So we can get a good synergy there to book that ride in.
Right.
So that'd be awesome. And, even if there's a way of getting sponsorship on getting a circuit out and back on the least maintenance area to get Aunt Emma on a real bit of a line, it'd be awesome. Because it's what it used to be, and there's a great story there.
That's right.
Can't underestimate the power of the story with people, because it's actually a good way of getting them to relax and really understand and feel value for the region that they're from. So those stories are good. We've got to tell enough of the story before they come, and then give them enough more of the story after they come in. So one gets the attention, the other one's the satisfier. And what they often come for is not then what satisfies them.
And it's surprising too, Alan, how many rail enthusiasts are out there.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, yeah. So, and that's one market. that we're looking at, but that's the market that will underpin the authenticity of the experience. That's a really important market that we need to focus on.
Councillors, more questions? Staff, Diggins? You've stunned them. Shock and awe. Shock and awe.
I am happy to take any absolute criticism, because otherwise you don't learn as well. So if there's something that you've been polite about, please go hard.
So, from council, support letter. I have some other stuff in tourism underway with, about to kick off with Central Highlands and Rockhampton Regional Council.
Yep.
So I will talk further with Kerry, and we may even be on to a joint letter co-signed by the pair of us.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Supporting the project to whoever you need it addressed to.
I think it's getting close to time. I just wanted the initial conversations of what it would look like to fit the system, if you like, and then comes the support letters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when you need them, you let us know.
Yeah, well, that's easy. But the main thing today is to bring everyone up to the one level of what the project's at, where it's at, and what it needs. So it needs to secure that funding, and then it needs that help with the profile. Yeah. And really, like I know all what you're talking about with the sculpture trail and what's happening in those areas, but the market doesn't.
No.
And that's where we need to work together. But now we've got a reason to use the train as the mechanism to package it. I think the secret with this train, for anyone who can see it and get on that page, is the packaging is a mechanism of actually helping take that piece and making it easy for people to experience it. And once we get that word of mouth going, it can only grow. And the people who read my brochures or look at my website aren't necessarily the people going on tours, but they might be people who self-drive or do other things or organise a conference or event. They're looking for ideas. Like, it's amazing what people use the web for. So anyway, I do thank you for your time. It's a great project. We're very excited about it.
I've got one more, Alan. Why aren't we marketing the whole Central West better, and how do we do it?
Well, a good step, which mightn't directly think it's a benefit here, but I think it is the best step I saw was Longridge and Whitman decided to talk about more than football. And so they've actually got an MOU together to say that they're actually going to leverage each other's work. So the problem, big can of worms, this outback tourism thing, but because that's where it all sits. And we're only as good as how we sell each other, but we need to leverage what we all have. And I think what Longridge and Whitman have done is they've decided, so we've got these icons, how do we actually get more efficiency out of the money we already spend on marketing and all sorts of things. So I think the natural progression from that is maybe a Central West, because the problem with OQTA, it's such a big area, the size of New South Wales in area, it's hard to get on the ground what those individual areas need. But I think neighbours together tend to share synergies, like the Central Highlands idea with here. Central Highlands, their meeting, it was just so wanting to come into the outback region and out of Capricorn. It wasn't fun. And I don't think I'm speaking out of school there at all.
But Rockhampton's the same.
Yeah.
They don't want to be in it either, because it's all lost to Livingston pick up most of that. So
Yeah.
so Rockhampton and Central Highlands are very keen to tap into the outback with that Cap Highway experience.
So there's a good opportunity here, but without reinventing the regional rules, I think where I think it could come is a good MOU to just bond people onto a common cause. And that's leveraging each other's, it's not just money, it's the points of difference that you need to be really careful about. Like, you don't want to say we've all got a museum. You want to say what the points of difference are in the different areas. And they're the things that should be the pivotal things in the MOUs, so people feel like they're one team. The football team has got this position, this position, this position, and those points of difference are the different positions in that approach, in market, in developing the product. But don't forget about a really strong media planning profile. I think that's where the councils need to invest is in building a profile for their little towns and their points of difference. So, and MOUs don't have to be just with councils. They could be with operators that are really keen to get a train going.
You said it, and I pointed at the same time, so.
Yeah. So we're super keen because we've found over 32 years without a relationship with Bucket, all right, because you need to have give and take in a lot of things, but you need a common goal. And if we can find some common goals together, I'd love to do that. And I think we're mature enough as a company to do that. We've got some really good people in our team and in our networks that some of you have worked with and some of you haven't worked with, and I'm happy to share any of those if it's going to get the common good.
Right. Well, on behalf of council, thank you for bringing us up to speed. All the best. We definitely be able to support your application for a deferred loan or a untied, unsecured. Just let us know when the time's appropriate.
Yeah, it's coming soon, so the timing for our meeting's been fantastic. So thanks for your time, because I know you're busy and you've got a big business to run yourselves.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, good
Thanks a lot. I'll see you.
Yeah. Thank you. Good on that. In those packs, there's a little bit of information, just in case.
You want to announce? Thanks, Alan.
No worries, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alan.
480 new cases in COVID in Victoria.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye
thank
now.
you.
Did you want these extra?
No, you can.
You sure? You're running short, you said?
I'll take one, that's all.
We'll give you two, second one for the same price.
Give it to the
We've got more coming, President. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Jesse, you want? Tourism proposal, one. 1102, deputation. Finish. 1103 now, 1102 it was gone. I know why you were laughing. Did he? Still right. Very good reading. Probably somewhat reassuring for position that we are considering as a future direction of this, almost in the same. We hadn't had a conversation about that last point we made at all, but to see the fact that you may have to look outside traditional tourism development strategies and synergies and relationships as a way forward. Councillor Arthur, I had a brief conversation about this earlier in the week about the good stuff that Winton and Longridge look like getting going, and even if it's only from a cost saving benefit, it's still good. If we can develop that same relationship with our closest neighbours to the east, then the volume of traffic on the Capricorn Highway to Emerald is obscene compared to what it is from Emerald west. So if we can capture a fraction of that, the numbers that are on this highway out here are nothing compared to that one. So,
And Mr. Mayor, as Alan said, it's a capturing the content and then being able to give that. You almost want a teaser or a taster, but then you almost want to overload people so that they don't get to see everything that they want to while they're here, so they've got to come back. Well, they stay longer.
that's right. And the other thing I see about, and from a whole heap of different points of view other than tourism, the benefits of a strong relationship with the two to the east are we're not actually competitors for much at all. Like you're talking big, medium, small. We've got different interests, so that in terms of attracting tourism, there's a totally different experience everywhere. We're not fighting for people to come and look at the same thing but in 4 different towns. So there's a potential there for that to be very beneficial. But this year is pretty exciting to see that sort of proposal. I think that's very good, and if it ties in with other product development to the north, pick up Winton to Jericho, then it's also very positive. It's good to hear private enterprise being pretty proactive in that space.
Mr. Mayor, you don't need many products to go and visit in a day. I think we try to cover too much because I've been on many tours in many countries, and they just select one thing at each place. Just go and do that. It's a couple of hours. Your whole tour for the day might only be 3 things that you actually do.
Which allows you more time for your coffee shops and, you know, information centres. And I was actually a bit taken by that. I think Alan's products that are in the flyers and we've given back, I looked at it and thought, there's no way it would take you 7 days to drive and see that. But if you want to experience something everywhere, well, it probably does take you 7 days because you've only got to stop for a few hours and then all of a sudden it's late and then you have at least 2 meals in the day. And yeah, so that's right. Instead of trying to overload, it's slow them down and have them for longer.
What we take for granted is an experience for them. Morning mobility or some of those things that you're going to do for them during the day. That's the experience for them.
I would expect that there'll be a more protracted conversation around tourism strategy following meetings we have in the next couple of days. So that welcome further continuation of that. I will write on behalf of Council in advance of the support. I will write and thank Alan for his visit here today. And welcome a continued ongoing conversation around product development for its future tours so that we formalise an outcome from that. We don't have a resolution following an invitation, otherwise I'd move to do it now. Can I have somebody move that we receive the works report, please? Councillor Peoples, I think you have an NPI there.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Plum. Seconder. Councillor Hanson, as in favour. Carried 6-0. Councillor Peoples, you'd like to return for item 14 in goal 3, is that right? That's the water reports? The
Yes, please.
Thank you. Questions? Rick, have you got anything you'd like to lead through here?
Mr. Mayor, I think additional to the Barkville, Narromackin, Muttabara sewage treatment plants, we've had a follow-up visit by Water Department. They've now gone away and they're working through what needs to be done in each of those areas.
Okay.
So they'll have a report to me this week sometime. Here's the plan. And what'll lead out of that maybe changes to the environmental licences.
Right. Flood damage extension was verbal, but we actually received written confirmation of that, didn't we? Or not yet? No?
I haven't seen it, Mr. Mayor, correct.
The extension from June 22 to June 23 for completion of practical works. We might follow up on that. The board of QRA are meeting in this building here in 14 days, so and we're having dinner with them that night. So can we just follow up to make sure we get that, please? I'm sure it's fine, but I'd just like it being written down. Questions other than related to swim data, please? There being none, we'll get Councillor Peoples to return for 14, section 14, goal 3.
It's freezing on this side.
Councillor, we're up to that swim data. Rick, have you anything you'd like to point out here before we have a discussion around it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Following discussions with the CEO and the Deputy CEO, they've asked me to put this in. Now, the 2018-19 data is confirmed data. The 2019-20 is only preliminary data at the moment. We report that data to DNRME in October. So they're unverified totals at the moment, but they are reasonably consistent with last year's.
Questions?
these allocations, they're set by
Our water licence,
our water licence.
DNR in other words.
Yeah, so you must be able to change those water licences and the allocation over time due to population increase and everything.
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, there are certain circumstances where they would allow increases. I believe that the Deputy CEO might have had some conversations with DNRME around such things, but for instance, if we have made a development in one of our towns and increased the population by, say in Barcaldine by 200 people or something, then we would have a case to go back to them and ask for an increase in the licence. Whether they give it or not is another thing, but we'd have to put our case of why we need the increase.
Because when you look at those allocations, we've got a fair few of our communities that are over the allocations.
We've only got 2 that aren't.
Sorry, mate?
We've only got 2 that aren't.
Yeah. So is there, what's the compliance issues? Is there penalties for being over the allocation or what's?
So I've had these conversations with you, Kate.
Through here, Mr Mayor, we didn't have any compliance issues out of last year's results, so they haven't spoken to us about compliance issues. That doesn't mean that the department won't come and talk to us about retrospectively, which Department of Environment and Science does. They did an investigation into us in May last year and raised it this year. So, it is possible they will come back to us at some stage.
Those issues predominantly would raise around whether we have to pay for the excess or what steps are you taking to minimise excess, like exceeding your cap, that sort of stuff. We've got a bit of a history here. I actually wish that the 17-18 graph was in there as well because it's no better.
Yeah, I just think we should be maybe making a case for increasing our allocations because, I can, back when we had a housing commission and how many houses that we put in these country towns as councils, there's an argument straight away. I think we should get about close on 25, 30 homes into Aramac and, probably another half a dozen, 8 into Muttawarra. So there are arguments that we can make why we should increase our allocations. And I'm sure we'd have that for all of our communities. So I just think it's something that we should be having a look at.
Councillor Arthur, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I am happy to be corrected or reminded. My understanding is part of our budget deliberation around the water allocation and excess water fees, it was asked if we were over allocation and the impression given was that we aren't or weren't.
Oh no, the figures, there was one budget deliberation, we had our usage figures given to us for, we didn't have 19-20, but we had 18-19 and that's the figures they were. We knew we were significantly under in Alpha and Muttawarra was floating on the line and the rest were over. But that's not all residential use, like that's business use, that's total, that's council.
It was no.
No, but it was
individual thing, and I think my question was, if we do go over allocation, what is the recourse from those that supply us? Was it a fine or?
Well, I think.
And at that stage, it wasn't really.
Our last 4 swim reports, there's been at least one community over in every instance. So that's the last 4 completed years, not counting 19-20, which is uncompleted still.
Yeah, because I'm not sure whether asking for a greater allocation will fly if we've got decreasing population in most of our communities.
Thinking that point, it's a little bit.
The council did resolve to apply for an increase in allocation for Barcaldine 2 years ago. 3.
Last term.
So it was in the last couple of years and we lodged the application, DNR came back with, wanted a detailed explanation of why, what land, what industry, we had to list out every use of that water above what was normal. And that was part of the recreation park as well.
Yeah.
But that was when they said, well, we can't count the recreation park because it's not permitted out of that licence that we had. So the only extra usage was the racecourse at that time, even though we developed industrial lots, but because they weren't being used or being taken up, there's no justification for it.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, like, there might be, it's not just purely based on the number of households or people that we have. Like, if we've got double the tourism, there's twice as many night stays, that's more people flushing the toilet, having a shower. If we've got more open green space for
Filling the caravan
recreational
parks
areas.
up. Filling the caravan tanks up.
That does add to it.
This to me, interesting when you look at the stats, it's only about, your households only use about 15%. It's only a minor part. It's the watering the gardens is by far the most water usage is watering gardens.
And community facilities such as hospitals, schools and showgrounds.
How do you measure that, Brett? How do you differentiate between a shower and a hose outside?
Just by looking at people who don't water their gardens, and you can see what a household, when you look at the list of what they would use. So someone who doesn't, you can see they don't water their garden, you can just see how much water they use compared to someone who does have a garden. It's just through local knowledge, knowing.
Quantifying, it's difficult.
It's difficult to.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that would be certainly backed up with, we would be able to get those figures of studies being done on XIS.
I can tell you, you just go and live in a cattle station where you've got your water comes out of the tank. If you don't water your lawn for the week, you don't have to top your tank up. Pretty simple. Like I can't quantify it either, except if I don't have to pump into my tank, well, I'm not using much water. So, yeah, that's.
And Mr Mayor, there's a slight difference in some of them from the sourced groundwater to that put into the potable system. Is that?
It overflows. So
Oh,
when
so-
reservoirs overflow and discharge.
Yeah, so it might be loss in some way. If you look at Aramac and Muttaburra, they have no retention system, so they're straight from bore into the system.
Yep.
Reticulation, whereas Barkey and the others have through.
Storage.
Yeah, so it
Storage
might
capacity.
be, might be leaking through the reservoirs, which we've had in the last 12 months.
So we're registering it going in and we're.
Yeah. So there's two different figures we work off. One is straight out metering off the bores, and the other one's metering through to town distribution.
So if you look at Alpha, for example, there's 6 meg difference last year. This year the figures aren't available, so you disregard them. Some of that potentially could have been because it's pumped into a pit for road construction.
Yeah.
So it comes out of the bore into a pit and then into town. So what goes into that pit's not metered after it leaves
But it's
the
still
bore.
coming out, registered out of the bores.
Yeah. But councillors, there's definitely things that can be done. We're still installing sprinkler systems in communities. Alpha, for example, there's 30 or 40,000 head of cattle potentially go through that cattle yard every year and they use treated water. That number, Alpha's actually not an issue, so we don't have to worry about it, but there is a potential there for a savings if we pump straight from the bore to the tank at the dip yards. You're not pumping chlorinated water over there. And in other communities, the use of sprinkler systems cuts out waste like you wouldn't believe, because no one can forget to turn the tap off. And areas are watered at the right time, so they don't have to be overwatered for a longer period of time. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can be done. They just got to be used when they're installed. That's the problem. Which would not always appear to be the case, officers. Just a slight observation.
As an example, and just as a personal example, I think we went from watering our yard with sprinklers to putting a watering system throughout the yard. Our water usage is a third of what it was previously.
So, would we be able to get, and this goes back to the conversations we had during the budget process, and my focus is on real-time monitoring to the extent possible. How difficult is it to have, monthly is perfect, but quarterly even reviews on usage? So that we can at least look whether the community is on target, over target. The summer months will be different, of course, sorry.
Mr Mayor, this goes into SWIM data all the time, so we have live data as we go through, so quarterly won't be an issue.
It'd be nice to publish those figures and say, and establish and say, look, communities are on target, you're off, please keep doing what you're doing, and when you're grossly exceeding, say, we pull up, using more water than we can let you have, really. Yeah, I did some pretty extensive surveys of this town because the people comment about the size of the allocation, and I don't see significant areas of water being running down footpaths for days, and I see a town that looks pretty good but doesn't look like gross waste of water. I think there's got to be an acceptance that the soil, the weather, everything here is different to every other community, and this, as are those. I can't compare Alpha to here. It's different soil. It doesn't get as hot. The wind doesn't get as bad. It rains about 5 inches a year more. It actually does rain. So, look at the median as opposed to what happens. There's a lot of reasons why. Lost the data. The gross data is not brilliant. There's a lot of examples of people around town who do a pretty good job with what water they use, so I think it's good.
How long does this go back? Like, we've been in a drought for, say, 8 years. Will these figures go back 10 years? So we can have a look at 10 years,
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to say back to 10 years through you, Mr Mayor, but
or even 8 years? Just to see
we can have a
the
look.
difference is it could be the drought, could be
You've got
the
to go back to
drought.
2010 when it actually had a good year.
But Mr Mayor, it might be an exercise even just to have a look at it, whether it's quarterly or monthly, historically, to show that seasonal variation, and then you can have a look at if we've had 2 inches of rain in Barcaldine, it should
Drop.
drop off. It may give you, going forward, if we're under, and then we're over in summer, it'll give us a better gauge of like the bell curve of usage over a year.
You might be able to explain it in summer and not be too hard if there's been a spike.
Yeah.
It's comparable to other years where there's been no rain and it's heat spike. So yeah,
Because if we purely quarter the allocation,
reference.
you wouldn't expect it to be anywhere near allocation during winter, but then our monthly usage will increase over summer so that it averages out over the year, but
It'll be a bell curve directly
Yeah.
relevant to temperature. So yeah, that'll be good. Whatever data we do have, even if it's not 10 years, but if we can have a moving historical average that we compare that data to, that would be good. A range from the highest to the lowest, maybe on, we call that a statograph or whatever it is.
But your quarterly data would be good if you had it over enough years to show you how much increase there is due to tourism trade during winter.
Yeah.
and that may well add some statistics around increases in future allocation.
Through you, Mr Mayor, certainly the biggest, as to back up what Brett was saying before, we certainly notice a large increase in water demand through the summer months. Then winter drops right off. That's when we do all the maintenance on our water infrastructure, because the demand isn't there. We can shut down one system, work on the other one, and it handles it fine. Through summer, we just can't do that. It's only emergency repairs that we do.
And councillors, we've already foreshadowed in the budget that we're going to take some council infrastructure off town water and put it on sewage. So, have I heard conservative estimates that we could save upwards of 50 meg by doing that. Is that right? Yeah, I'm getting nods, so yes. You know, so there's, that's a straight saving. All right, no more questions? 362.
Oh, sorry, Mr Mayor, I thought you were talking about the water.
What we were.
Oh, right.
Well, sorry, but if we're going to go on to other issues, I've got to get Gary to leave again. Sorry, that's why I asked whether we're on or off. No,
No question then, no,
stuck.
it's not important,
No.
not that important.
362, the updated draft road register. Now, there's two maps for this, rural roads, two attachments, there's the rural roads and Town Street. Can I have somebody first move that we received the report? Councillor Rogers moves, seconded Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried, 7-0. Rick, this is a preliminary update, a lot more work to come.
Yes, Mr Mayor. So this is just showing some of the outputs we're getting out of the road register stuff. These figures still have to be verified. Once we confirm the roads and where they're at, the next thing we'll do is move into looking at the categorisation of the roads. In the near future, probably the next few months, there'll be workshops with councillors to look at the road categorisation and the road policy. The next bit of work out of this, once we confirm the road asset data, is looking at the gap analysis based on type of road, what it's supposed to be built at. So, for instance, if you've got a road that's categorised LARS, and for that LARS it's supposed to be gravel the whole way, 100 kilometres long, we're only on 10 kilometres of gravel, 90 kilometres left, and that's an investment of, might be $9 million or whatever it might be. So it sets a scene for council of whether we continue on that path. We might be able to afford to upgrade that road for 50 years. But it's important to have those documents there, that if funding becomes available, we can target our priorities. So there's a fair bit of work to come. That gap analysis will come first, and then we'll have that workshop with councillors around setting those road categories.
Councillors, the way that format will work is we'll probably set aside 3 days. There's a number of policies that have to be developed in order, as the engineers just said. The first is what we want our roads to look like, how many categories we're going to have, may not change, what each one of those category of roads should look like, what its maintenance regime is. So 1 grade, 2 grade a year, 1 grade every 3 years, equivalent to 1 grade every 3 years, whatever it is. So we set that policy first, trying very hard to leave the actual roads out of our mind, and then we go back through and then we actually categorise every road, and then we look at what's required in terms of capital expenditure on those roads before we get to capital, then we look at the amount of money we historically spend on road maintenance. If you leave flood damage to one side those years, so we've always got between 2.5 and 3 million in flood damage, rural road maintenance. We look at the rates that are set on a per kilometre rate by road category and make sure that it reflects what's needed for the scale of maintenance that we've already set in the first 2 documents. And then we look at what's required, as Rick said, the gap analysis, and we bring in and say, right, well, that road is a category 1 road, but it's going to have $10 million spent on it a year for the next 10 years, like a $100 million upgrade. Does it stay as a category 1? Do you split it into 2 different categories? Do you commit to do it? We then, from that, come out with a 4-year program with the road capital upgrades identified in order of priority. Predominantly, that would be higher order roads first, unless there's a safety issue. So, lives at risk, then that can be prioritised up. The engineers have done developmental work, and obviously we'll continue to work with the senior work supervisors. When we've got the draft of that document, what we're expecting to do, we then take it out to the people who live on the streets and roads and say, does this reflect, are these the areas that you want done? We may have to move a little bit. We may reprioritise if the engineers have got 4 of them of a similar priority and we've picked one to go, and it might, after our consultation, we might move 2 or 3 up. The idea is that we set that document, it's a 4-year rolling program, the same as QTRIP and a bunch of quite good documents. When we get year 1 out of the road, 2, 3 and 4 move forward, and we have a conversation about what the 4th year is. So I would expect that we'll be doing this work between September and Christmas. We've got one other major policy to review between now and then, and that's unrelated to roads, and it'll give the engineers time to get a bit more of this work done. Still will be probably work that will have to ongo, but it'll be a solid 2 or 3 day workshop, and then we undertake our community consultation with our byproduct before we do the budget in March next year, because year 1 of the capital upgrades, it comes straight from this work. And on a slightly side issue, I want the capital works across the council area, unrelated to streets and roads, to have the exact same, probably 3-year program, maybe not 4, where we identify and prioritise our capital works on a yearly basis, on the basis of importance and need. And then when we sit there to do our budget each year, we're only reaffirming that what we identified the year before matches the priorities. And of course, there's going to be little things come up. There'll be a community group raise something, or there'll be a damage to a piece of infrastructure that we didn't foreshadow. But we will be setting in next year's budget a document that says a minimum of 3 years work out in front, so that people who live on these roads and live on these streets will know when their curb and channeling's coming. They'll know when their bit of gravel to fill in some black soil or a bit of extra bitumen, that work will be foreshadowed, and things will realign. Like if we get an extra, like we've got this year, 1.3 million or 2 million in roads to recovery, it's easy. We just go into whatever the top priority was for year 2 and bring it into year 1. It doesn't become a political exercise of picking whose street and whose road. We've got an agreed upon document. This is what our priority roads, the people in our communities know what they are, and it almost becomes an exercise in, it becomes automatic. No one's even got to scratch their head. So I've told the community that we'll be doing that, and we will be, before next year's budget, taking to the May. And this is the first document you're seeing. The one correction to it is on the first page of the rural road summary. Bowen Downs is actually a Lars road. It's listed there as a category 1, but Rick assured me yesterday that there's work that's been done to rectify that. It's always been a Lars road, but there was a technical issue within TMR that just meant it didn't appear on their local roads of regional significance register, but it is. So the change is correct, it's just incorrectly categorised, but this is a draft report. Yeah. Rick, sorry, I've stolen video thunder there. Anything else?
Very good summary, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, questions?
I have a couple.
Fire away.
Mr. Mayor, just to satisfy my nitpickiness, attachment 1, we've got Capricorn and then Capricorn Highway. One has a road number, one hasn't. There's a couple there that don't have road numbers. So Dryden Street, Capricorn,
Streets.
Showgrounds Loop. I know it's not a big thing, but is our intention to be consistent and give everything a road number? Urban road summary, attachment 1.
Yeah, sorry, me now.
Or is that Capricorn? Oh, sorry. it's-
No, Capricorn, they're both Capricorn.
Yeah, as I said, Mr. Mayor, previous is a draft, so
Yeah,
that's what we
okay.
have to do, just to give council an idea of some of the stuff that's coming up. You also see the pie graph on the right, gives you an idea of the road lengths that we've got.
That actually surprised me, councillors, the difference in urban road lengths between Alpha and Aramat. Relatively static sized communities, but there's nearly double the road length in Alpha. So that was a surprise. Data has a funny way of doing that at times. Did you
Spread out.
Yeah, just not quite as
Arrow's
condensed.
compact now.
Yep.
Alpha spread out.
You've got that area on the northern side of the railway line, which you sort of forget about while I'm being recorded, aren't If you don't draw their attention to that, Aaron, no one will pick up on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, those, hopefully we can look at those. So you had some more things? Was that just numbers, or no, you had other questions?
Oh, there's a couple of bits and bobs there. And it, as our engineer said, Mr Mayor, it's a draft. But we don't have a Landsborough Highway, Oak or Beach Street in Barking.
No Oak Street.
So, Mr Mayor, I think Capricorn High.
Well, it's Oak Street, but from the roadhouse, Mr Mayor, that way, Oak Street is the Landsborough Highway. Box Street is Landsborough Highway here. I don't see that they're in there at all.
Because, and I think that's why Capricorn doesn't have a road number, because they're state-owned roads.
But then underneath it, we've got Capricorn Highway Road 9164, Mr Mayor. There's probably just some polishing.
There's 500 metres of that in Jericho.
Yes. The Capricorn Highway and Alpha would be state-owned, so it would be.
So it would be in Jericho too, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we'd have to find out what that 500 metres is.
And Oak Street, well, the whole of Oak Street is Landsborough, so that's why it doesn't appear. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oak is Capricorn Highway.
Capricorn, sorry. But it's not here, so that's why.
But then we have Capricorn Highway in there, but not the Landsborough.
No.
Okay, this.
That last good bit.
To be named in Aramac.
Well, that was another one. Can we name it? Or
There's a no name as well.
There's a no name.
and
There's
to
two
be
there.
named.
Is there a reason as to why they are no name?
Here I am asking the school kids in Alpha to come up with a name for a street that's already got a name, so maybe we can do the same for two streets that don't have names.
And they will come to council as well.
Good.
Those bits and pieces.
So councillor, probably what would be good is if you take this draft, there'll be the updated version of it when we have this workshop in a couple of months.
Okay.
But circle, highlight, flag and screenshot, send some copies of it off to Stephen, Rick, whoever, and that'll, in case the engineers don't pick up on the odd abnormalities, if you pick up on it for them, that'll help them tidy that up in advance of our workshop, please. Even if you've got
And some of the names may be incorrect as well,
I know.
or have two names, some of the roads, so we call it one thing. So they got Barkle and Isisford Road, but it's Barkle Downs Road, so it's got two names, depends who's talking.
And then from the other end, it's named a different thing, and then somewhere in the
So,
middle, it's.
yeah, they're the sort of things we need to just clarify and make sure we've got. The other big one that does create confusion is Jericho Aramac Road. So if you're in Aramac, you call it the Jericho Road. If you're in Jericho, you call it the Aramac Road. And then Dunrobin sort of comes off it. So then I just saw a map yesterday and it was called the Jericho Dunrobin Road from Jericho. So we've got people would call them different names depending on which map you look at.
There's a lot of roads in that feed north of Jericho that they're good, they all loop around, but you can take any one of them to get to anywhere you want on the other end, and locals usually do, they take whichever one's the smoothest. All right.
Mr Mayor, can I just ask that next time we touch on this and we go, can you just give us a bit of a referral of category 1 and the description of category 2, just so as we know the difference between those roads and your last road, so as everyone's.
Yeah,
It's actually, through you, Mr Mayor, it's actually our roads policy.
it is. If you have a look at the roads policy on the website.
Yeah, but can we just have it when we do these documents to start with, so as we can refer to it, please?
Well, the next time we talk about it, we'll be actually discussing that exact policy. This information currently sits in the back of that policy and it will be taken out because every time something about it changes, the policy's supposed to be updated to change and it never does. So we will take this data out and this will sit in the asset management plan as opposed to in the road classification policy. In that road classification policy, if you look to the appendixes at the back, it actually goes to the amount of each road that's sealed and unsealed. It changes the whole lot. Okay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, my nitpickiness has been satisfied for the moment.
That's very good. Without actually having resolved anything, we've satisfied you, so very good. 3.7.1, please, information report alpha. Can I have somebody move Damien's report? Move Councillor Peoples, second Councillor Rogers. All in favour? Carried. Damien, what have you got for us here, mate?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I just want to raise a point, just a bit of good news story. The local Alpha SES had a sign-on barbecue on Saturday, and they've got now 12 or 13 members. So, which was a really good outcome, considering how it's been very inactive for a long time. So, and the Jericho SES shed, it's due for completion at the moment.
Any other questions for Damien? I'll bet you the spraying of 3 mini horses impressed the RLA. Horses will stop or a pest to spray, but minis could only be the worst of the lot. Any others? Compliments to the final part of the upgrades to the dip yard to the staff. Well done. Feedback from the community has been very good. 3.8.1, can I somebody move Paul's report, please? Councillor Peoples is leading the room. Councillor Plum, move. Councillor Hanson, seconds. All in favour? Carried, 6-0. Paul?
No, just had a lot of travellers going through at the moment, so there's about 10 to 15 in each of the parks every night, except, that's the caravan parks, not the freedom parks. Yeah, there's a couple in there at the moment. Yeah, everything's on track, starting with all the new budget items.
Good. Questions, councillors?
Mr Mayor, was there a time in the future we might get a draft for the Muttaburra Town fence plan?
Location.
Yeah, just to have a look.
Yeah, so I've got a meeting with Nick on Friday, and I'll download the map tomorrow and do a fence line, and we'll adjust it, and we'll probably put that out to community consultation a little bit too,
Good.
depending on where they want to actually go with it.
Excellent.
Because Mr Mayor, we have a rough idea of how long we can go with the money we've got, haven't we? So,
It's
yeah.
about 5 kilometres.
Becky?
How much money you got?
70.
70.
I think it was 75.
75.
50 or 70?
75.
50 sounds better though. If you can get the same fence built for 50, good. Nah, that's 75. All right, any further questions?
With excuse me, Mr Mayor, Aramac Showgrounds amenities going out for tender, we had the discussion that we want to have a look at the design again, or?
So the designs are actually being done by the tenderers. It's a design and construct. So all of the tenderers will submit their designs back. Our design is just in principle for them to follow.
Yep.
And then I believe the engineer has said that we will work with the successful tenderer to develop the final design. So their initial submission wouldn't be final construction designs, would it? It'd be a
No.
Be an
No,
impression.
yeah, Mr Mayor, they'll give us an indicative design based on what they put forward. We'll look at that through the tender assessment phase, and look at the prices of them. If we can add bits in, we will, if budget permits. So it's part of that post-tender negotiation.
Thank you.
So Paula did consultation on that with a couple of groups. So we've got that feedback sitting there when we look at the tenders, when they're assessed, and we decide to incorporate more toilets. I believe was the number one issue, wasn't it?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think it was one group liked the breezeway, the other one wasn't fussed on it. One group liked the office in the end, the other one sort of didn't care. So we left the design as it went to tender last time, put it out, asked them for their designs, and away we go.
And Mr Mayor, because of our focus on budget, Chief Engineer did come to me asking if we did increase the number of toilets before we went out to tender. And we felt it would be best to leave it as it is, and if it comes in under what our budget is, well then we'll look to see if we can include more rather than go down this path of ending up with a plan that's in excess of the budget to start with again.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Paula, the trainee has completed the traineeship, so we'll be putting on another trainee, will it? Someone locally or someone?
I believe they can still finish their year out. Yeah, they're still employed for the full year. They've just finished their books. Yeah.
So the traineeship's 12 months. So I finished the study, so still got to do work experience.
Practicals.
Practical.
I just wondered if they had finished
And they get, they're funded positions and they come out every 12 months. So probably in the next, maybe October and November, they'll announce funding for the new position. And we have to apply for the funding, and then they'll allocate us so many positions, and that's how it works.
Councillor, before I ask for someone to move Jenny's report, it's remiss of me not to comment, Damien, because I have privately to you, but
Sorry, yesterday, Councillor People.
yeah, the new garden beds in Alpha, full complement to your garden staff. They are fantastic, even in their very juvenile stage of development. The raised flat beds, the showgrounds in the town hall and the entrances to the showgrounds, the whole community, and a lot of visitors have been travelling through and commented to me about it, so you could pass on our thoughts. Thanks to your councillors, they're very to your staff, sorry. Can someone move Jenny's report? Councillor Gleeson, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour, carried, 0. Jenny, would you like to lead us through your report? Or anything of interest? We wouldn't jump out at it.
The staff member we had the baby shower for is now on maternity leave at this stage until March next year. She only has, she's due 2 weeks' time. So I can see we'll have some news of a little baby. Not much else.
Thank you, Charmaine.
Except in the, just a bit of follow-up on the horse training.
Mr Mayor, sorry to interrupt, Jenny, but I'm going to declare an MPI here at this late stage, because
Please, an MPI.
if we're going to, I just saw that there, that I have horses in work with one of the trainers that we use at the track, and for whatever reason trying to put their horse in harness, I'll declare an MPI there.
Thanks, Jenny.
after that, because the council, we had a resolution at the May meeting, I think it was, April meeting, regarding operational plans and agreements with trainers. We have got them in draft form. We're just trying to work on what really to put in an operational plan that's not incorporated in the trainers. Come up with a few dot points. So Trish is just working on those with me. And following that meeting with the CEO, myself and the trainer, we will be hosting a meeting with all the trainers in August. That's where we're getting these in place for them.
Okay.
And I do believe I looked online and saw that there is another TAB meeting here on the 8th of August.
It's definitely a meeting, and I had heard it was going to be TAB stadiums.
Correct, yeah. You've got to go online to find it. They don't advise us. So hopefully they might have patrons at the next one, so. I didn't hear
It'll
anything.
be very limited if they do.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they are happy to go with how they're
Because
operating at the moment.
the number of people attending must include also like the jockeys, trainers, strappers, staff. So once you take all of that out, there's not significant patronage spacage left.
Yeah, that's true. No feedback from the meeting, so I'm assuming they will gone well.
Right, questions?
Mr Mayor, to Jenny, negotiate the possibility of moving the fence line. Is that the one that we looked at over at the golf club?
Yes. It is the one we'd inspected before the April meeting, but Chief Engineer, have you got anything to add, or Jenny on that?
I'll let Rick speak to that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I was asked to go and talk to the golf club about the possibility of moving that fence. I met with the president of the golf club, took him out there, showed him what we were looking to do, possibility of doing. He said he didn't see a problem with it from the golf club point of view. So we're right to move that fence from the golf club's point of view if we do so.
What sort of cost?
There shouldn't be any more fencing costs because the way we're going to do it is move a corner post out, re-fence to that corner post. The length will be about the same. We come back and join on another bit back down towards some other stables. The length will be about the same. The cost will be in concreting those posts back in. So that basically council labour and some concrete. Might be a few bits and pieces of materials to restrain it all up.
And so, Mr Mayor, this is alleviating the issue of crossing the track there, because
Through Mr Mayor, there's two parts to it. One is being able to move that fence out to take the horses around outside the rail, inside the fence. And the idea is to put another crossing in like the one past the finishing post at the moment, at about the 900 metre mark. So then they'll be able to go through there. So there are two entrances to the track, one at about the 600 metre mark, one at about the 1200 metre mark from the outside. This will be 900 metres right in the middle of those two entrances. So the stables that are on the other side of the golf club, plus the existing stables down around the 600 metre mark, will be midway between those. Put a crossing in there. It's 100 metres from 1,000 metre start, which means the horses are up and balanced by then. So it's not on the turn, so it's back 100 metres from the turn, so it's the ideal spot. So that's one of the solutions, or probably the favoured solution at the moment. We'll take those crossings out if depending on the negotiations between the CEO and the trainers.
But not necessarily, it's just that the work has been done to explore whether it can happen, and the golf club are happy to do that if it needed. That operational works plans and the agreement with the trainers and accessing the track and all that stuff will take place prior to any decision about infrastructure. Further comments, thoughts? can bring councillor Pickle back, please. Three point nine point two. Jenny, would you? Sorry.
I just, yeah, this. No, it's okay.
Oh, sorry, Mr Mayor, this won't affect Gary, this, about the, same issue, the local laws report. It doesn't seem to add up.
No.
How so?
Wow. So the bottom right corner patrols, we've got 2, 2, 10, 2, 2, but total 0, like, and then across the whole thing, it just doesn't seem to add up. Again, my nitpickiness, Mr Mayor, but because the way I read it, like the shaded area, say the category for patrols, has then the 5 communities underneath, so 2 have been conducted in 4 of our towns and 10 in Buck-Alden, so that's 18, but the number of patrols is 0. Whereas other areas like Pools and Spas, 2 and 2.
I'm only guessing, but I'm assuming the patrols would be, the 10 should be about 18, would that be right?
Yeah. But then a lot of the other stuff doesn't seem to.
Yeah. I'll have to check that for you, councillor.
And we've got watering out of ours 10, but we've not. So we've issued 10 warnings and issued 13 permits for that period.
Permits, in that case, they're permits for people to water outside of ours, not the water.
There's no
Totally
relation
unrelated.
between the two things.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Two
So the impression is that we've given 10 warnings for people watering out of ours.
Is that right, Jenny?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we would have issued 13 permits to Mr Mayor, so that's a total of 23.
Issues, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that one.
We'll double check the report. And the other, so once again, this is a 12-month report. We just confirm that
Well, let's have
there's no figures in from July in there. We'll take it back to the 30th of June and then start afresh for this current financial year, so there's a comparison.
Well, that's got from the 1st to the 7th, 19,
Yeah.
so that's.
Yeah, so we're just confirming that.
It's like our safety report, we're now going to have a year-on-year comparison now that we've collected the data for a full 12 months.
Yep.
The de-embarking, just remind me to mention that our local laws officer will be out of on leave for about 10 weeks, so we need to,
Mr Mayor,
we need an alternative strategy over that period.
Mr Mayor, can I ask what are permits issued? How do they work?
So, Mr Mayor, for example, the council park.
They're permits to ourselves.
Even to a, say, caravan park or a business house that can't water at night. So a caravan park can't water their lawn at night because the caravans are there and they'll get wet. So
Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
they ask for a permit to allow them to water in the middle of the day when the van park's empty.
We've been promoting that in the Galilee Gazette so that the community understands that if people are watering outside of hours, it's because they've got a permit.
It may only be trivial, but in the impound dogs, there's 14 dogs impounded, there's only 3 released, so there's none used.
might,
We might need to look
explain
into
that one
this.
afterwards.
Sorry?
You might explain that one afterwards.
We might just need to look at this in this report. Maybe we get it fact checked and the same report come back to the next meeting, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So, Penny, we move to 3.9.2. Before I call for a resolution, would you like to, anything further you'd like to add to your background report? Or your thoughts as the officer responsible?
I guess the thing that I will like to add is that it was for 2 years, 1 year with a 1 year option. It is actually the responsibility of the Salliards manager to contact us, and it's in the agreement, as you would see if you had a chance to talk through it. They had to contact us about renewal. It didn't happen in the first instance. Again, they haven't contacted again this year. I do give reminders to them to come forward to say that, you know, it's time to look at it. So that's probably one of the bigger reasons why we put it back out to expressions of interest. It doesn't have another option, so the 1 by 1 has been utilised.
Councillors, any discussion contrary to the recommendation? The officer has also noted there that the conditions of the contract be revised. I suggest that's positive. Becky?
So are we going to talk on some of the things in the contract or not now?
I wouldn't have thought we'd need to, because we're calling for expressions of interest so that our contract's null and void. We're not renewing that contract.
Oh, okay.
We're calling for anyone in the public, any business, to put their hand forward to as an and then the contract negotiation then moves with the successful tenderer.
And we're able to revise this or not?
Yes. That contract is effectively ceases even in a hypothetical situation that the same contractor was to be reappointed, it would be on a new contract because the option in that contract has been exhausted. So that document ceases to be valid as of the 4th of September. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Councillor Peebles?
I was happy to move the motion if there's no other questions or anything, Mr. Mayor.
Note that, please. Councillor Peebles, any further comments?
I'm just sitting.
Councillor Plum, seconds. All in favour? Carried. 393, the lease of the former Buck Organ Information Centre. The council endorses the CEO to grant a lease of a building formerly VOSC to Kay Garland and Annalise Moraz for the establishment of a hairdressing business. Councillor Plum, are you moving? Seconding. Councillor Peebles? Any discussion? Being none, those in favour? Carried 7-0. Barcaldine swimming pool. Jenny, would you like to lead this? I think your report's pretty self-explanatory, but is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
I guess one of the primary reasons for actually putting it out to casual employees is, like, if we were to go for funding again, it's probably really hard to attract someone for a 1 year lease to a swimming pool complex. Most of those are longer term, and like if we were successful, I think it's easier for casual employment, and we only engage them for the season.
On the point of going for funding again, we'll be meeting with the local member and minister responsible for a lot of this stuff on Monday night next week to reevaluate what other opportunities we might have. So that's potentially something that could be relevant.
Mr. Mayor, do we gather or gain attendance figures from the other pools that we have leased out? Like, information like that could be, well, it's quite handy in either lease arrangements, because in there it says we don't have actual attendance records for the Buck Organ pool.
No.
So we don't get that reported back from the current lessees.
It is, through you, Mr Mayor, it is asked for in their lease agreements, and you follow up and get it, but it's not always, they have them.
Yeah.
They do keep those, but
The lessee, Mr Mayor, the lessee had
comprehensive.
a register on the counter, so every person that goes to the pool, you've signed your name. Every time you go, you put your name down, so there is a record of everyone who attends. It's not
But we don't
necessarily
necessarily
supplied to
combine
us.
Combine that statistics at the moment.
It was a requirement of the lease that they supply those numbers.
Through you, Mr Mayor, so in saying to casual employees, they would have to be trained in a lot, like life-saving areas and things like
Correct,
that?
they'll need to be qualified if they aren't already when the positions are advertised.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there probably are some people who have expressed interest, not just more for leasing when they thought it was going to go that way. There are people who are probably adequately trained in the community that would probably express interest in these positions.
Jenny, these employees would be fully responsible for the operation of the pool in the pool season, so that is gardening, regular, like the routine treatment plant operations. That would be part of their responsibility, the same as a lessee.
Yes, exactly the same as what the lessee did. Yes.
I just ask that councillors, it's not like we're having an additional cost for gardeners to be going to work there. That cost, as is looked at there in resource implications, is relatively all-encompassing.
Mr Mayor, there is one issue, a regional issue, not just Barcaldine, in that there's new water quality guidelines for swimming pools that we have to comply with. So there'll have to be an employee of council trained in those new guidelines, who would then ensure that all our pools are meeting that
Framework.
that water quality framework.
Might be possible to train one of these too.
So
I know they're 7 hours per day, is that correct too? Monday to Friday, and 4 hours each day on the weekends?
Yes, that's the current operation.
Okay, do I have a resolution?
Mr Mayor, sorry, could I just suggest, and didn't pick this up, reviewing the agenda, we dropped the word two out of there, because it could be more than two or more.
Casual employees, yeah.
It's not my resolution, but it's no one's yet, so the recommendation can change if that's the recommendation, but the net cost could grow if the number grows. So can I have some more information about why? Two, I can understand the figures that are presented, but we have more than two, then the figures grow, don't they?
No, it's not the same now.
So it's still only going to be employing them for the same hours?
Yeah, that could be, like if someone's away, then you've got
holidays.
the third person comes in, so then you've got three. Like, by putting two in the resolution, you can only have 2 people at the pool at any. We only have one at a time, but
If they're called away.
You could have a pool of casual employees,
that's right. Like you could be on leave for 4 weeks. And it's just, a third person comes in and
Dear
does
Mr Mayor, maybe if we put that they're actually employed for 7 hours per day into that resolution for casual employees, it basically states that they've got to have people employed for those hours rather than.
The only problem is we may not, but the individual employees won't all necessarily get 7 hours a day.
No, but I mean, if a casual employee is employed to fill that 7 hours per day, 4 hours.
So to operate the pool for,
So just casual employees to operate the pool for those hours. So that covers your cost at a set cost per hours, and then every casual's got to do it.
that makes me somewhat more comfortable. Council is happy to amend the resolution accordingly, so it'll be engages casual employees after 21, Jess, go right to the end. But to operate the pool on Monday to Friday, 7 hours per day.
Maybe you want to do 8, one day.
Well,
Just try to
Could be a
live
swimming carnival.
Swimming carnival, training in the morning or something.
Well,
I just put the hours required or something.
Standard hours.
Yeah.
Well, hang on, I'll see, councillors, this adds to a difference. If it's a leasee and you do that, it doesn't cost you any more. But if it's council employees and you do that, it does cost you more.
It's no different to us having to pay overtime if we're doing a job or something. It's, it's a similar thing, isn't it?
Well, it depends, you can recover a lot of that, can't you? You do an overtime on a TMR job, it's actually profitable for you.
And who is it that says, okay, we donate this pool 12 hours a day?
That's Stephen.
It does or doesn't, or
To you, Mr Mayor, my thoughts about swimming carnivals and swimming club and like that, they have got the right qualified people running those shows, so we don't need to have our employees there. We having operational of the pool, that's up to us to loan that out, like we hire a venue to other organisations who are providing the same qualified people to run them. So the swimming club, their carnival, they've got qualified people run that operate under their carnival rules.
The pool's actually closed when there's a swimming carnival, the pool's closed.
And that was also stated to our lessee, that the lessee did not need to be there on those occasions.
So when the school has the pool, for example, same difference, like the pool is actually closed at those, like if we're going to authorise it to be open for more than 7 hours a day, we're committing ourselves to overtime or a change in operating hours. Our hours are whatever they are currently. All we're asking here in this resolution, as far as I view it, is that council fills that instead of with a leasee arrangement, staffs it with a casual employee basis for 35 weeks. If we're going to start opening more hours, then it comes at a cost that we're not considering here today. The 45,000 instantly becomes more.
So there'll be an agreement, obviously.
No, they're casual employees, they just work for us, no need for an agreement.
After April 21, can we just put for the standard operating hours?
Well, yeah,
It's been the standard for many
still an
years.
officer's recommendation yet, see what you like there. Councillors, Bob?
I'm happy with that.
I'm happy with that too.
Right.
do we say current standard operating hours? Because if there's a decision made to vary those standard operating hours, then that resolution goes with.
Yep.
I put it in the wrong spot, sorry.
Right, you're better talking than I.
You've done very well. Do I have a mover? Councillor Peoples, second Councillor Hanson. Is there any discussion on the resolution? None, I put it. 7-0. Council, I now move to a mayoral minute for 3.1.0, the Regional Arts Development Fund. The mayoral minute will be moved by myself. The motion will read that council delegates the decision regarding an application from Red Ridge to the RADF committee without the need for further council approval. I'll give you the text, and can I ask Angela and Angela first and then the RADF chair to lead us through the background to why we're doing this.
Good afternoon. On Monday afternoon, Louise Campbell from Redbridge contacted me to see if there was any chance that they could get a proposal through before the end of the 31st of August, which is the date for our RADF funding ending. I have spoken with Councillor Rogers and Councillor Dillon in regards to what we could do, and it was suggested that in this instance that we go through the assessment process as we normally would, and then have a minute to so that we could go through the approval process without having to bring it back to council. Just due to the timeframes, the 19th of August meeting will be too close to when they actually need to hold the event, the workshop, and so we thought that was the best course forward. I had further discussion with Louise Campbell yesterday, and the plan for the proposed funding is to mosaic the water fountain at the St Joseph's Catholic School in conjunction with the Central West Aboriginal Corporation. The mosaic will tell the story of water with drought and floods represented in an Aboriginal design. This will involve students, parents and community members invited to participate. And they're looking to engage Margaret Stevenson, who will be an artist in residence for 7 days. It is expected to cost $5,000 to $6,000, and Redbridge will also be co-funding this project. We currently have $16,000 in the RADF funding. So we do have funds to cover this particular project.
Councillor Rogers.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, Angela and I have spoken about it, and the thing about the funding too, I mean, it rolls over, but if we don't spend it, next time when we go to apply for funding from Queensland Arts, they might sort of be less likely to give us the same amount because we haven't spent that in the previous year. They might reduce. It might be harder to get the funding. Also, Redbridge it's renowned for having good applications and good community involvement in their projects. So, yeah.
Councillors, the reason why I say just instead of just giving a blanket, asking for your blanket approval today, is the RADF committee do want to, or the chair of the committee said to me yesterday that they'd like to ensure that the application fits within the guidelines rather than just saying, yep, here's the money. They want to still check that everything's right. The timeframe sensitive, that's the most detailed rundown. I think the brief's a good brief. If council feels the other way, this was the only way at this late stage, the only mechanism by which we could get it into the agenda because of the late notice of it. So I've moved it. I'm not going to call for a seconder straight away, just discussion. Does anyone have an issue either with the procedure or with the decision to delegate? None? Well, I might now call for a seconder. Councillor Peoples. All those in favour? Carried, 7-0. Well presented. Thank you very much. Councillors, we'll close the meeting at 12:20.